Alright, hi everyone. Sorry I was having some technical difficulties with the microphone, but hopefully you can all hear me now. If somebody in the chat could just let me know if you can hear me, that would be great. I just wanted to start going live on YouTube for really just helping out pre-meds with any random questions that they wanted to have answered. I was thinking I would just do some studying, do a quick little study with me and then answer any questions that came up on the chat. I also asked on my Instagram channel if people had any questions that they wanted me to talk about, and I got a nice little list here, so I'll get started with those in a second. But let me just get my Anki Remote all configured here. Let's see. Oh no, it doesn't want to work. Let me try connecting it one more time. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Okay. Alright. So yeah, if anybody can hear me in the comments, if you could just let me know so I can know that my audio is working, that would be awesome. Okay, perfect. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and get started with the first question that I had on Instagram. So the first question was, how would you recommend studying in medical school? And this is just like a really broad question, but I love it. I also sent this person some resources as well. The one that I'm using right now is the KenHub Anki deck for anatomy. It's free, you can just download it. I think this is really helpful, especially in the beginning of medical school, because that's when most people are going to be taking the anatomy courses. And so you can see here that like it outlines one thing at a time in green, and so it makes it really simplified and easy for you to see where all the connections are, and it kind of takes out all the rest of the stuff around it so you can really see super easily. And so to me this is really helpful, especially when you're first getting started learning anatomy. This is a really nice, like, easy basic deck that you can start with. I would say that for most medical schools, you'll start with biochemistry as one of the first courses that you do. And I didn't really have a very strong background in biochemistry. I didn't take a lot of courses in undergrad. I just took like kind of the bare minimum requirements. And so when I started off in medical school, it was really overwhelming because it would come at you so quickly. There were so many pathways and things you would have to learn. And so I found that Picturize is really helpful for memorizing those long pathways, because it kind of breaks it down into a picture format that's much easier to memorize than just like all the random enzyme names and stuff. So I would highly recommend looking into Picturize for biochemistry, because that's really, really helpful. And then, of course, for the rest of the courses in medical school, like kind of everything else outside of biochem and anatomy, I would recommend Anki. I think that Anki is one of the most helpful things that is out there for medical students right now. So I would just recommend really getting started with Anki as soon as possible, like even using it to study for the MCAT if you're pre-med. I think that's really helpful, because if you can get used to how it works and like kind of get comfortable with it, that's going to help you a lot when you get into medical school, because you'll already be comfortable with the software. It's like kind of annoying to set up because you have to figure out all the settings and everything. I don't think it's particularly user friendly as somebody who's not great at technology, so it does definitely take some time to get it set up and everything. Oh, okay, I'm a little quiet. I'll try to talk closer to the camera. Okay, hopefully that's a little bit better. I'll also try to talk louder so you guys can hear better. Okay, next question on the Instagram. Let's see. Oh, this is my favorite one. Okay, I'm going to answer this one next because I just think it's so good. This person was asking if being pre-med is worth it. They're kind of considering like, should I quit being pre-med or should I keep going? And they gave me a little bit of background. Like, I don't want to, talk about all of the things that they said on here, but I direct messaged them kind of about their specific situation. But I think this is such a great question because people wonder all the time whether or not it's worth it to go down this path and if they should quit. And my kind of controversial answer to this is I definitely think there are some people who should quit being pre-med. Now, the caveat to this is like the reason why. So I think some people really find out when they're going through their clinical experiences and their shadowing that they actually don't like the career as much as they thought they were going to. And that's okay. So I think that if you are going through your clinical experiences and you're not really enjoying it, like you're seeing the realities of the healthcare system and it just doesn't seem like something that's going to fit with how you saw your life, I think quitting while you're ahead is perfectly good and nothing to be ashamed of because you don't want to spend your life doing something that you don't actually like. And so I think there are definitely situations where pre-med's quitting is the best thing. Like, it actually makes the most sense because you don't want to get stuck in a career, especially one that's so long like this, if you don't actually enjoy it and you're not actually going to have a happy life doing that. So that being said, I think that's really the main reason that I would suggest leaving the pre-med pathway. Um, the reasons I don't think are good for quitting is if you feel like maybe your grades aren't good enough or your MCAT score isn't good enough. I think that those are things that can be worked on. And if you actually really want this career and you know that it's the right thing for you, doing things like a post-bac program, retaking the MCAT and studying a lot longer for it, there's a lot of ways that you can overcome like score issues and give yourself a better chance of getting in. So that I don't think is a reason why you should consider quitting pre-med. It's really just if you actually want to do the career or not. And I talk about this on my Instagram all the time. Like, you want to give yourself a lot of clinical experience because if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, you might be unpleasantly surprised by what it's actually like. And so that's I think the most important thing is just understanding if this is a good career path for you specifically. Okay, let's see what else is in the chat. Oh, I was super intimidated by Anki. Me too. Most pre-meds I feel like are intimidated by Anki, even most medical students, because there's so many settings and it's very computery, you know? You have to really like kind of look up the tutorials and things. One thing I thought was really helpful is like this Anki remote that I'm using. I'll try to hold it up to the screen so you guys can see. Oh, it's like kind of blurry. Okay, well, hopefully you guys can see that. I think getting a remote is really helpful for Anki because you get tired of pressing the spacebar all the time. And I post about this all the time on Instagram, but I love to walk on my treadmill while doing Anki, and it's so much easier when you have one of these remotes to do that because you don't have to be like glued to the computer. You can just have the remote and have the computer as far away as you want. And so getting one of these makes you go faster. It's like just makes the experience a lot easier. So yeah, I would highly recommend the Anki remote. This one's actually by the company called Anki Remote. I had those other ones. I think it's like called 8-Bit Dough or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. But like that classic one that everybody had, I bought that one to begin with, and I liked it. Like, it was fine, but it's a little bit cheaper, and I found that the buttons like kind of wore out after a while, and the battery life got really, really short. So these I've had better luck with because it's just like a little bit higher quality. It is more expensive though. So if you want to just like try it out for the first time and you're not sure if you're going to like using the remote, I would just get the cheap one to start with. But if you know you're going to use it all the time, investing in one of these I think is definitely worth it. Okay, let's see. What are the other questions? Okay, the next one I had from Instagram was about the MCAT, and people were wondering if I could recommend like any like study programs or things. Like, I don't know if you really need the programs, to be honest. Like, I think what you really need to be successful studying for the MCAT is, number one, Anki. Like, there's a lot of really good decks out there, and so it's free. Like, take advantage of the free stuff. And then most of the different companies will offer at least one free practice exam. So if you go to all the different company websites and just like take that one practice exam, that will give you like 6 or 7 practice exams, literally all for free. So I don't know that you necessarily need to buy any practice exams to do well. I also got my books from the library. They were like 1 or 2 years old, I think. It doesn't matter. Like the content doesn't change that quickly. So if you want to get an older one from the library, I think that's perfectly fine. And then the one thing I think you should definitely pay for is the actual AMC resources. So those are going to be really useful, and they're worth it. Like, whatever they cost, like, yes, it's annoying, but like whatever it is, I would just pay for it because it's the closest thing you're going to get to the actual exam itself. And so if you can try to replicate your testing conditions as much as possible, that's the thing that's really going to give you the most success on the actual exam day, because you're going to know what to expect. Everything's going to be what you were practicing. There's no surprises or anything about the interface or the timing or anything like that, especially for cars. Oh, I love Jack Weston for cars. People ask all the time for cars resources. I think that one's really, really good. And so they have a lot of free passages that you can practice with. I will say I think they're a little bit easier than the actual ones, so they're good to start with. I would definitely start early on your like practice tests with the Jack Weston, and then start replacing them with the AMC cars practice tests, because they're going to be a little bit more in the style of the actual exam and more difficult. But I think those are really, really good. But yeah, I know like Kaplan, Med School Coach, Princeton, um, Exam Crackers, like a bunch of them have free exams. So just like go download them, start doing those early, and then save the AMC practice exams for the end when you're like most ready to take the actual exam. So that will be the best, like most representative resource that you can use. Okay, let's see. Oh, my battery died on my Anki Remote, the 8-bit dough. Yeah, I feel like that was really common. Most medical students at my school used those cheaper Anki Remotes. Like, I would see almost every student with one at some point. And then when I started using this one, everybody was asking me where I got it. Like, everybody wanted to switch over to one of these. So, yeah, I think it is definitely worth the investment if you're going to be an Anki person. Oh, I have a discount for it too. Here, let me see. I don't have like the technology to be myself and like comment in the chat, I don't think. So I'm gonna use my dog's account, Phoebe. You should follow her as well. But let me see if I can actually put the link in the chat. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I'll try because I have a discount for you guys. Let me see if it'll work. Okay. I commented as positively Phoebe. If someone could let me know if that link works, that would be great. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Sometimes YouTube doesn't let you post links, so it might not be letting it go through. I'll also try just putting the discount code. Oh yeah, I don't see it. Okay, it's probably not letting me then. Let me see if it'll do this. Okay, I tried just doing the discount code and like not putting in the link. It's literally just ankiremote.com. So if you want to type it in, yeah, maybe somebody can see that in the chat. I don't know. Okay, well, I tried. But yeah, so I think it's like $30 or something to get this one. It's like maybe 15 or 20 to get the 8-bit dough. So it's not like a huge difference, but the other one is definitely cheaper. Okay, let's see. What are the other questions? Okay. Other one on Instagram was, how do I stay motivated to study? This is a great question because I don't always feel motivated to study. I think that when you're in the first 2 years of medical school, so like the preclinical part of it, you don't have a choice. Like, there's so much material you have to learn. You just have to be studying like almost 24/7. So motivation doesn't matter as much then, to be honest. I think where I had trouble with motivation was during the third year when you're doing clinical rotations, because when you come home from the hospital, you're so tired, and like the last thing you want to do is study after you've already had like a full day of work. So that was, I think, when motivation really became important. I would say that when you're in clinical rotations, trying to study as much while you're at the hospital as possible. Like, that's the key, because when you get home, you're going to be tired and not necessarily want to do it. So if there's like slow moments in clinic where nothing's happening and you can just get some Anki done or do some practice questions, like do some UWorld or AMBOSS or something, I think I would highly recommend doing that. Obviously, you have to be careful with that because you don't want to look like you're not interested or that, you're not paying attention to patients. But I found that there's a lot of times where there's literally nothing to do. Like, you're just sitting there in the workroom. So those are the times that I would recommend, like, just really taking advantage of those slow moments and just getting as much done as possible before you get home. And then you can just relax when you get home and not have to worry about it. So that's kind of, I think, the key to success is really like taking advantage of your time when you're at the hospital, especially on rotations like surgery, OBGYN, like those emergency medicine, like all those that are like kind of longer shifts where you're going to be there for a long time. They'll definitely have downtime where you can get some studying in. So I think that's really helpful to kind of stay motivated and stay, studying as much as possible, because if you just reserve the studying for when you get home, I feel like that's how people get into trouble, because they're just too tired and like they literally just don't have the motivation to do it. So that's what I'd recommend. Um, what does a typical day look like in each year of medical school? They're super different. Yeah, they are super different. So, most medical schools will have like 1.5, or 2 years of preclinicals. And so that basically looks exactly like when you're in college, but if you were taking like 20 courses all at the same time. Like, it's so much more than the workload that you had in college, but it's a similar thing where like you're going to lectures, you're going to like discussion groups, things like that. So that first year or 2 years, however it works for your medical school, is really the time where you're going to want to focus on studying and learning how to do Anki as much as possible. You just want to learn all the material that you can. It's very much focused on just the tests. You'll occasionally have like OSCEs and things like that to work on, but most of it is just going to be multiple choice exams where you're just sitting down taking tests all the time. So that's what most of your day looks like, is studying and taking tests, and then like the little other things that are kind of like sprinkled in there for clinical skills as well. And then the third year of medical school is when you're going to do the actual rotations. And so I think that that is the most unique year of medical school, because you're doing something different on each rotation, and every single one is super, super different. The way you study for the shelf exams is going to have to be different as well. I think the easier ones tend to be like psychiatry, like family medicine, like there's a couple that are like a little bit lighter. Neurology for me was a little bit lighter. And so those give you a little bit more time to actually study, but there's also a lot of things you have to learn on those rotations. So even though you're going home a little bit earlier, there's still a lot that you have to study to get ready for the exams at the end of the rotation. And then there's busier ones like surgery, emergency medicine, OBGYN. Like those, for me, internal medicine was also pretty busy. And so those, you're going to be at the hospital for most of the day. Like, I would even have some 12-hour shifts in there. Some occasionally schools will do 24-hour shifts. So those are really brutal. You'll have night shifts as well. So you'll kind of see everything that the doctors are doing. And it's really hard to manage studying with those types of rotations. So those are, I think, the most unique ones because you're going to see so much and be at the hospital for so many hours, but there is still studying that needs to be done, like kind of worked in there as well. And then I'm a fourth year medical student, so I'm in the last year. And so most fourth years are focused on the process of applying to residency. So you're going through the application process in the beginning, like submitting your ERAS application, and then after that, you're going through interviews. So you spend a lot of your day kind of going to these interviews. They take several hours, like I would say like half the day for most of them. They're a lot like medical school interviews, but a little bit more chill, I think. They're just kind of like getting to know you and your personality, like seeing what you like about the program and the specialty. So it's like a little bit less intense, I think, than medical school interviews. But so then once you're done with that, which is kind of like the phase that I'm in now, where I've submitted my rank list and everything. So like I already know the programs that I have a chance at matching at. So that's all submitted and everything. So now I'm just doing electives. So you get to pick different electives in your medical school. I'm currently on a clinical pharmacology rotation. It can be done from home, so it's like a virtual rotation, which is really nice. And so you basically just kind of get to pick things within your specialty and different things that you're interested in to finish out your fourth year. So fourth year is amazing. It's super easy compared to the other years, especially compared to the third year, which I think is the hardest of them all. So it's a breath of fresh air. Like you really get to relax and kind of recover from the exhaustion that you felt during third year, especially with having to take step 2 and everything. Like after finishing all of that, it's much more relaxed. I think that like taking step 2 was the last like really big stressful thing that I had to deal with in medical school, and after that point it was really just focusing on residency from then. Let's see. Any other questions in the chat? Okay, I don't see any other ones. I'm going to go back to the Instagram questions. Let's see. Oh, I love this one. This is a really good one. How would you recommend dealing with the interview process of applying to medical school? How would you recommend preparing? Any tips and tricks? Okay, so basically asking about interviews. So I think that I talked about this a little bit with like comparing it to residency interviews, but medical school interviews are much more intense. I feel like, especially if the school does MMIs, so multiple mini interviews, that's a really stressful thing for pre-meds because you're going through these different stations and sometimes it's literally like acting. So they'll give you a scenario and you'll have to like pretend that you're the doctor and like literally act out the situation. And so that is something that I would really recommend preparing a lot for, is the multiple mini interviews. The traditional interviews are a lot easier, but you also have to know your answers really well, especially for things like tell me about yourself, like greatest weakness, what's a time you overcame a challenge, like all those classic questions. I would recommend preparing like bullet point answers. I even like taped my answers behind my computer screen when I was interviewing, like not the full things, just bullet points, so I would remember like an example of this or like a patient interaction I had of this, and like kind of the classic things that I knew that they were going to ask. So that way, if I just panicked and absolutely forgot everything and my mind just went blank in the moment, I could just look at that sheet of paper and like look at my bullet points and go, oh, okay, here's an idea, and it will just like kind of jog your memory. So I think that was really helpful to have that. Um, as far as preparing for the interviews, I would just honestly do as many practice questions as possible. And there's so many. If you literally just Google medical school interview questions, there are so many out there. I would just practice as many of them as possible because you're gonna be surprised by some, like it's inevitable, but you want to be prepared as much as possible and like kind of limit the number of questions that are surprising you. One question that I got asked a ton that I was not expecting at all was teach me something, which is that can be really scary if you're not prepared for that one. So they just want you to teach them a skill or teach them a fact or something. That came up a lot. So be prepared for that one because that's really hard if you don't have something in mind already. And the other thing I got asked about all the time was, what do I like to do for fun? And this is such a funny question to me because I feel like in pre-med, you're so busy. Like, you're literally just trying to apply to medical school and take your MCAT and, like, do all your college courses. Like, I don't know how much time people actually have for fun, especially at that stage at the very end when they're, like, applying to medical school and doing the interviews. So just have something ready for that because they love to ask that question, and like they're actually pretty serious about it. Like, they like to spend a good amount of the interview time talking about your hobbies. So I would be really prepared for that. I like to study for fun. That's such a real answer. Yeah, so just have something ready that's not studying, and have that ready because they will definitely ask you about it. Okay, let's see. Oh, how do you avoid burnout? That's a great question. I don't avoid burnout. I feel burnt out. That's the honest answer. But I think that some ways that I've tried to like recover from the burnout of third year during fourth year is like getting back to just sleeping normal hours. Like, that sounds so weird, but like I did not get enough sleep in third year, like all of third year pretty much. I was just like not able to get all the studying done and be in the hospital for the hours they wanted and still be able to get enough sleep, and that's terrible. So catching up on sleep and like recovering from that has helped me so much. I feel so much less burnt out in fourth year purely because of that. Another thing I was really bad at, but that I'm trying to get better at now, is eating healthy. That's a hard one to do when you're so stressed because stress literally makes you reach for all the unhealthy foods. So I've been trying to get better about that now in fourth year and like be more intentional about that. But if your hospital has a cafeteria that has like a lot of different options, try to figure out where the good healthy stuff is that you like, because that's going to be key because you're going to want to like run in there really fast and know exactly what you want. So if you haven't started third year yet, definitely check that out and see like what are your options for eating, because it's really easy if you don't prepare and like think ahead of time to just like keep grabbing junk food because that's what's fast and easy. So something to think about if you haven't started your third year yet, like see what your hospital has. Okay, I don't see any more new questions in the chat yet. Let me actually. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any new ones, so I'll just keep going with the Instagram ones. Let's see. Oh, okay, this is a really good one too. What would you recommend for preparing for step one in terms of resources, and how long did you study? Okay, so I studied for basically all of the preclinical because you're getting ready for step one, and then I did a dedicated for I believe 6 weeks, I think was how long I took. And so that dedicated was really intense. It takes a lot out of you to do that dedicated period. So you want to try to find a happy medium between taking enough time to where you can actually get everything done, but also not doing too long of a study period because it's just so draining. Like going through all those practice questions every day, it's just really grueling. So you don't want to overdo it as well. So it's like finding that happy medium. So for me, I believe I went with six. It was either 6 or 7 weeks. I know some people do less. Some people do more. It really just depends on what you need and like how well your school prepared you. Some schools do a better job of others than preparing you, to be honest. And so it really depends on that too, and like how well you studied during those first 2 years. Like there's a lot of factors that go into how long you need to take to study. But in terms of the resources I use, so my school paid for UWorld, so I had access to that, so that's what I used. I also have Amboss as well, which I love, but I mainly did UWorld just because it was what my school paid for. So I went through all of the questions that they had there, and you're literally just doing them in blocks of 40, like trying to represent what the test actually is as much as possible. So I would just go through timed blocks, making sure I was really comfortable with the timing and everything. So that way I wouldn't be surprised, on exam day. It's a lot like studying for the MCAT where you want to replicate those testing conditions as much as possible. I also used Anki. Some people stopped doing their Anki during the dedicated period. I didn't. I love Anki, so I kept doing it. So I thought it was helpful. But I know a lot of my classmates just didn't do Anki anymore, and they would just solely work on their UWorld or their AMBOSS questions. So that's a strategy you can use as well. It just kind of depends on your preferences. I also would recommend, if there was something that I really didn't know very well or I had forgotten all of it, to really spend time in the beginning trying to deal with that stuff, because you'll miss a lot of questions if you don't remember like some of the core like basic things from like biochemistry and like the enzymes and whatever, like all the things you just have to basically memorize. I like to start with that because I didn't want to be missing questions that were like easy memorization type questions. So if there was a chance that I could get it correct by doing the Anki, that was something that I wanted to deal with first, and then like work on the practice questions to figure out how to not get tricked, like fall for the trap answers and like get derailed by something in the question stem that wasn't actually important. Like all those like test taking skills I feel like are more important for the end. So I did a lot more Anki in the beginning and less practice questions, and then I would increase the number of practice questions every day until I was basically doing mostly practice questions at the end. Let's see. What's my favorite thing about medical school? I think there's two things that I really like. Number one is being able to study for a living. Like, I think that that's so fun. I love studying. I'm like a huge nerd. I love to be a student. And so, like, that whole thing, like being a lifelong learner, I actually find that really enjoyable. And I would much rather study than like go to a 9 to 5 job. Like, I just find it so much more enjoyable. And like, I get to do this for a living. Like, that's so cool to me. The other thing I really like about medical school is when they let you stick with a patient for a really long time and you get to know them really well, and it's so fun to see them every day. Like, I had the best patient and best like family ever that I was working with for like a week on internal medicine, and every day they were so happy to see me. Like, they remembered my name. They actually wrote my name down in their little book of like all the different healthcare providers, and I was like, oh no, you don't have to write me down, like I'm just the medical student. And they were like, what? You're not just the student, like you help him with all these things, like we're definitely like counting you as part of the team. That made me feel so good. They're just like amazing patients that really make you feel so special, and like it's awesome. Like third year, it's hard, but it's really fun because you get to have like really fun moments like that with the patients. So I think that that's really like the thing that keeps you going through third year. Let's see. Have you felt like any of your patient interactions are meaningful? Yes. So, as a medical student, you don't get to do a ton of things in terms of the patient's care. However, I do feel like our like interactions with them are incredibly meaningful because you can take care of the things that contribute so much to their comfort that other people on the team just do not have time to deal with because they're so busy. Like, they have so many patients, and when you're a third year, you usually only have like 2 to 3 patients. Like, maybe if you're like really, it's a light, like easy patient load, like maybe they'll increase you like 4 or 5 at the most. But like sometimes I've even had just one patient. Like, it really depends on the attending and how they want to set it up. But you can focus so much on your patients because there are only so many that you have on your patient list. So for me, I really liked to be able to bring them whatever drinks and like little snacks they wanted. That was something I would do all the time. Blankets, like warm blankets, helped so much as well. I got to know where like all the good snacks were. Like, they would be on a certain floor, so I would go and like find exactly what the patient wanted. Like, if they wanted chocolate versus vanilla or like whatever, like the little things like that. And I think that's so meaningful because when you're in the hospital, like, you're miserable. Like, there's so many people bothering you all the time. Like, you have an IV in your arm that's uncomfortable. Like, there's just so many different annoying things. And if you can have something that increases your comfort a little bit, it means so much to the patients. So yes, I definitely think that there are meaningful things that you can contribute as a medical student, for sure. All right, well, I finished up my deck. So I'm going to wrap up the live here. Thank you all so much for joining. I'm going to try to do these a little bit, like maybe once a month or so, like whenever I have the time to kind of come on here and talk a little bit. Um, if you guys have more questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll try to answer more of them. I also like to answer on Instagram, so I have a poll right now on my Instagram story that you can go and ask if you want like more of a specific like tailored answer. I can just DM you as well. Um, but yeah, any other questions, any last minute things before we wrap up? Oh, this is a good one. Somebody asked, how are you paying for medical school? So most people pay for medical school with student loans. That's like the vast majority of what people have to do. I was super fortunate that I got an academic scholarship, so I do not have to pay tuition to go to medical school. That's something I can talk more about if you guys are interested. But I basically was able to negotiate with the medical school that I ended up going to get a scholarship that is from their admissions committee. So like they're running the scholarship programs and they have a certain amount they can allocate to different people. And so that was how I got my scholarship, was through the admissions like academic side of it. Another thing, some people just have their families pay. I know certain medical students at my school who like their families just pay for their entire medical school, like in their apartment and everything as well. I do know a couple medical students who have jobs as well. Like I do this, like I work on social media and like have a little part-time job. I know other people do like tutoring. I worked as an MCAT tutor for several years. And so I know a lot of people continue doing that in medical school. Some people like to ask, like, do you have time to work? If it's like a minimum wage job that takes a lot of hours, probably not. Like most jobs that we had in college, you won't really have time for. But if it's a job where you can control your own hours and have it be incredibly flexible, like something like tutoring or working on social media, that type of a job does work well for medical school. But like your classic jobs that like everybody did, you know, like working at a restaurant or like a coffee shop or like teaching, like all those different things. Like I worked as like a writing teacher at my college, and like that took up so much time. Like things that are really time intensive like that, not really. I would say that's not super realistic for medical school. Let's see. How long do you work? So it depends. It like actually varies every single week, so I like can't answer that question very well. But I will work more hours, like maybe 10 or so a week, like on lighter weeks where there's no exams, and then on exam weeks I'll work like zero and just like be solely focused on medical school. So I don't work a lot. I would say that when I was doing MCAT tutoring, like I would schedule it so I only had one or two students at a given time, so that way I could like devote all of my time and attention just to those people. But like when I was on my gap year and I had much more time, I would have like 10 students at a time and like be working all of the time, like just making a ton of money, just trying to save up for medical school. So when you're in medical school, it's really important to just prioritize your exam time, because that's what matters. Like you don't want to fail an exam or do poorly because you were stretching yourself too thin. Um, let's see. How are you protecting your mental health? I don't know. That's a great question. Most of us don't know. I have some more cards. Let me study them now. I think so yes, there is a lot of burnout. To address the first part of the question, I think that the hardest part of the first 2 years, like when you're doing clinicals, is to really prioritize having time where you're not in the house studying, if that makes sense. So like being able to get out of the house and like go on a walk and like do, I have a dog, I have two dogs, I have a corgi and a Great Pyrenees, and so they help me get out of the house because I have to go take them on walks and like take them to the dog park and stuff. So that I think is really important when you're in the first 2 years, because it is so easy to just sit at your desk for like 8 hours at a time and like not even stand up. Like that's, I think, really unhealthy, and something that I will do all the time is like get really wrapped up in the studying and not take breaks, and then that would lead me to feel super burned out, and then I would be like not wanting to study the next day. So I think that that's really important, is to like actually have time to get out of the house, like even if it's just a quick walk or whatever, just to not be sitting all of the time. Like I was literally worried that I was gonna get a blood clot. Like I will sit so much, like it's so bad. So like being able to get up and like walk on your treadmill and do Anki, like get outside the house, like go run some errands or something, like that's really, really important. You don't have to worry about that in third year, because they will make you walk so much on your clinical rotations. Oh my gosh, I had some attendings that would only take the stairs, and we would do like 5 flights of stairs in a row, and like we would all be out of breath when we were at the top. So like that you don't have to worry about as much in third year. But the first 2 years is really easy to get burned out just from being in your house, like stuck inside studying all the time. Um, let's see. I agree. I volunteer, and there are a lot of times when I'm able to really comfort them when the nurses are too busy. Yes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's so helpful to the patients. Like, I've been in the hospital, like, as a patient, and I know that those little comfort things make such a big difference. Like, it matters so much. Like, you'll feel useless sometimes as a medical student, but you are not useless. Like, you are literally helping them so much by taking care of the little things. It truly matters. Like, it makes such a difference. Um, let's see. Uh, is medical school competitive? My undergrad is cutthroat. Okay, so here's the thing. It depends on what specialty you're going for and how you want to run your life in medical school. So let me explain. So there are certain specialties that are competitive no matter what. So like neurosurgery, any type of surgery, dermatology, ophthalmology, like those are really, really competitive no matter what. Like for everybody, they're super competitive. However, if you are going for a less competitive specialty like pediatrics or family medicine, those can still also be competitive if you're trying to go for like a certain location. Like you really want to go to residency only in this one state, and there's only like 1 or 2 programs there. So like that can also be competitive, sort of depending on the person and like what their goals are for residency. So that being said, if you are more open to just going wherever for residency, like you don't have that much of a preference and you're going for something that's less competitive, medical school can be pretty chill. Like there's a big spectrum of how competitive it is, and really it depends on you and like what you want for residency, how competitive it's going to be. And the more competitive it is, you just have to have better grades, you have to do more research, you have to do more extracurricular activities, like you just have to do more of everything. You have to have more leadership, you have to have better evaluations on your third year, you have to have better step 2 scores, like all the things just have to be better if you're going for a more competitive specialty versus a less competitive one. So I think that your quality of life in medical school largely depends on your preferences for your specialty. Let me see. Any other questions? Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here because I don't see any other questions in the chat, and then I answered all of them on Instagram, either on here or via DM. So thank you so much to everybody who asked questions. I will do a couple more of these in the future, so if you missed it, don't worry about it. I will definitely have more, and then if you are watching this after the fact for the live, I can also answer your questions if you leave them in the comments. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get to them, but I will get to them, I promise. So just drop them in the chat or in the, I guess in the comments, if you're watching this after the fact, and then I can answer those as well. But thank you so much for showing up, everybody. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.